Hey guys, and welcome to this week's episode of the Top Producing Zone podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Jin.
And I'm your co-host, Shane Carvalho.
Today we have acclaimed realtor, instructor, author, and now coach, Jim Remley joining us. Jim has just an incredible story. His journey in real estate started at the ripe young age of 19. He quickly emerged as a top performer, ranking in the top 1% of realtors nationwide. Within a year, we're talking about shattering sales records with over 150 property listings. By 24, he had started his own real estate company, which now has grown to encompass 17 offices, has become the largest independent real estate company in Oregon. He's a sought-after instructor with NAR, co-founder of the Luxury Home Council, authoring the prestigious accredited luxury home specialist designation, and author of 3 best-selling books, which has garnered him appearances on television and audio programs, including CNN's Open House. And now his mission is clear. He's focused on helping agents and brokers, like those of you listening, accelerate your performance and just reach new heights of success. And so with that, Jim, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here, guys. It's my pleasure.
Quite a journey you've been on.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just even doing that introduction, I'm just like, wow, Jim has done a lot. Like hearing all that, like how does that make you feel? Like reflecting back on where you've come and where you are now.
Of course, I'm proud of the hard work. It's, but if you're living it, it's like a Greek tragedy. There's always these ups and downs, and it's like lots of tears and lots of highs and lots of lows. But when you look back on the journey, I think the most interesting part of an autobiography is the lows and coming out of those things. And what do you do in the struggle? What do you do in the downturn? And so it's been a good ride. It's been fun.
Well, and we're definitely going to dig in on that because I'm sure our audience would love to learn kind of how you overcame that. So, I mean, as you kind of reflect on your journey, Jim, let's just get right into it. Like, what do you feel like were some of the lowest of lows for you, and how did you overcome those?
Well, I would say my first 6 months in the business, and I think this is common with some top producers that I interview and talk to, is that a lot of times they were not just right out of the gate successful. And that was true for me. I was a college dropout. I was working in a lumber mill when I got my real estate license for Graveyard. I had $1,500 to my name and I was driving a Chevy Citation.
I don't even know what that is.
I was 19. I had no business getting into real estate. So I struggled for my first 6 months, but I think, and you get really down in the dumps and you think, did I make a bad decision? Is this, should I go get another real, quote unquote, real job? The turning point for me was I said, I know that I can do this if I just model the other top producers that I've seen across the country. So I started reading books. I went to all the back then seminars, live seminars, and I just really paid attention and I just implemented, even if it didn't feel right to me. And I felt like this is not like exactly what I want to do. I still went out and did it, and it created success. For me, it was all about building as many relationships as possible, because as a 19-year-old, none of my peers were buying houses. So I had to go level up to people that actually could buy a house.
That is really cool. And I love how you just said, you kind of just implement. And I think maybe what's left unsaid there, and you let me know if I'm wrong, is like you failed fast too. Is you tried a lot of different things and you learned from that, and you had to pivot quickly when you needed to.
100%. I am a master of failure. I mean, every top person is their success is built on a mountain of failure. I was somebody that was not afraid to get on a call and call people and see if I could get appointments. And, I have thousands of calls that I had the word no said to me in that first 6 months. But eventually you kind of find your rhythm. And, that great book by Malcolm Gladwell that talks about outliers, and there's that 10,000 hour rule. And the problem that I see with a lot of agents today, not that you should be cold calling, because I'm not advocating that at all. But what I'm saying is that you got to embrace this fact that there's not instant gratification. You can't just assume that I'm just going to go out there and crush it day one. You got to go through a lot of failure, and you got to figure it out. It's like learning a guitar, learning to sing, learning to write. You're going to screw up 1,000,000 times, and then you're going to get better and better and better. But here's the fastest way to success. The fastest way to success is fail as many times as humanly possible, and you will figure it out, right? It's those people that are afraid of failure that really, truly fail, right, in their business.
Yeah, and we've talked about this with quite a lot of guests, and this is certainly like an overarching theme, right? Shane, of like, especially with agents or anyone these days, you get on social media and it's always you see the instant success and everybody sees the glitz and glamour, and they don't realize kind of the journey that goes into it.
Yeah, 50% of all the agents in America closed less than one deal last year. So it was either 0 or 1, 50%. So, and I'm going to give you my first tip of the day if you want me to give you a coaching nugget here. So let's get into some granular ideas that we can implement. New York Times, I just was giving this to my agents this morning, just came out and they said that there's a report out from a group, an investment group that's predicting 1 million agents leave our industry over the next 12 months. Do I think it's 1 million? That sounds high to me. But I will say it will definitely be hundreds of thousands. And hundreds of thousands because you got a double whammy. You just had the worst by sales volume, the worst real estate market in 29 years last year in 2023. It's better this year. But now you've got the NAR settlement that's going to hit August 17th. Most agents, I'd say 80% of agents are completely unprepared for this. And it's going to hit like a sledgehammer, and they're not going to be able to adapt. So where's the, you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds terrible, Jim. What are you telling me this for? So where's the opportunity here? I'm going to give you the golden goose opportunity right here. The golden goose opportunity is you want to look at every agent that's leaving the industry, and you want to make contact with them as an agent, not as a broker, as an agent. And you want to invite them to coffee or lunch. And the script is going to be something like this. Hey, Michael, I hear you're going to be moving on and leaving the industry. I'm so sorry to hear that. I really enjoyed working with you. Listen, I'd hate to see all that hard work you put into this industry go, by the wayside. Do you have you picked somebody out that's going to be your referral agent going forward, so you can still earn referrals and still earn money on that, all that hard work you put into your business? You may or may not say yes. I'm probably going to. You're probably 90% of the time going to be like, no, I haven't chosen a referral agent. I'd love to be the referral agent you choose. I'd love to work with you, and I'm going to pay you instead of 25% referrals. I'm going to pay you 27.5%. I'm going to pay you 28.3%. Some oddball number, right? But higher than normal. I'm going to guarantee that I'm going to communicate with you throughout the transaction. I'm going to guarantee that I'm going to pay you within 24 hours of me getting paid. And I'm going to deliver just amazing service to you. We just got to find a place for you to park your license. Now, that might be at your company if your company's got a referral company. But imagine this. Imagine that you can get 20 agents in your corral that each send you 1 or 2 deals a year. You could literally create an army of these inactive agents that did spend a lot of time and effort and energy into their businesses. And now you've got a little mini sales army. It's going to happen. Might as well take advantage of it.
That's a good perspective, especially for someone like myself that's a big networking referral type agent to begin with. I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, what you were saying about the 50-50, or less than 50% has sold 0 or 1. I was aware of that, and I heard that earlier in the year. And I know there's a mass exodus, but it's interesting because the opportunity I saw was that there's more transactions for less agents. I didn't even go a step further to talk like what you're saying, which is very, very intriguing.
And then I would take it one level up from this. So that, I think it's a great idea, right? But one level up from this is you say, and I'm going to help you generate referrals so that you can actually earn 5, 10, 20 grand next year, maybe more than you earned as an agent just by sending me referrals. And I'm going to help you to do it. And then you get them into a closed Facebook group where you're delivering content training to them every week or every month. And you say, here's an email to send out. Here's a social media post to send out to your sphere of influence to drive those referrals in. You send them to me and I'm going to get you paid. And it might be like, hey, I should have been doing this all along. I'm making way more money doing this than I did as a realtor, right? So just another add-on to that.
I love that so much. And it's always about this constant theme of just being, driving with value first.
Driving with value, 100%.
Exactly, with whoever you interact with. That is awesome. Golden Goose tactic number 1. I think I'm already envisioning, Jim, like when this episode goes out, we're gonna do some kind of like fun special graphic with that.
I haven't seen that.
100 of them if you want. We can just keep rolling through it.
I haven't seen that goose in a while. That'll be fun. Actually, Jim, I had a question for you. So, because you obviously are bringing stuff back to your agents, and obviously, if the agents that aren't leaving, that maybe aren't producing, if an agent wants to be productive right now in this market, maybe, I don't know if this is going to be a golden goose tip or if it's just maybe 2 or 3 tactics, but what are you encouraging your agents to do right now to generate business? Like, what are the best let's say top 3 ideas you have?
Well, number one would be you got to understand where your business flows from. And I'm going to give you something that everybody talks about, but nobody does. And that is you look at NAR stats. NAR stats will tell us 69% of our sellers come from referral. 61% of our buyers come from referral. So number one, you got to fix your referral business. If you don't have your social media dialed in, you're blowing it. But let me tell you where agents blow it. Number one place they blow it. Okay. So when you put up a social media ad, you say to yourself, or a post, I'll say, you say to yourself, oh, everybody that is in my, that's a friend of mine or follower is going to see that post. That's not true. Only 4 to 6%. 4 to 6% of your audience, your social audience, is going to see any given post you put up. So you're thinking that that's going to have any impact. It's going to have almost zero impact. So how do you do this? If you're going to put up content that starts to resonate and you want to really drive traffic and drive business, you've got to remarket to your own audiences. And this is like 101, but many agents don't do it. So how do you do this? You take your CRM that you have, and hopefully all of us are using a CRM. You harvest all your email addresses and phone numbers. You take that, you go over to Facebook Ads Manager. You open up Facebook Ads Manager, you go to the audience builder section, and you say custom audience. In that custom audience, you're going to load up, and it's going to give you a template for doing it, but you're going to load up all of your clients, okay? And that the key data points you're going to put in there is their name, their phone number, and their email address. That way, Facebook can find them. Okay. Now you got 300 or 400 or 500 people, 1,000 people. Now, when you place an ad, you can say, I want this ad to go into my remarketing audience. And that audience now is going to actually see your ad as opposed to maybe or maybe not seeing a post. And so I would just encourage people, you don't have to have a big ad spend, $4 or $5, nothing much, right? But start getting in front of your own audiences more than you are, because most of us are not engaging at the level that we need to engage in. I'd say $4 or $5 a day, you're going to be golden. You're going to be in front of them everywhere, right? But then you got to be doing what I would say is things that are getting away from traditional real estate. I'll give you a couple of examples. So that's kind of your old school social media, sphere of influence stuff. The new stuff that we need to think about is, I'll give you one, is like when you take a listing, the next time you take a listing, let me give you, here's Golden Goose number 2. This is a great strategy that everybody should be using. So you take a listing, the old agent, would go out and they say, I'm going to do a just listed postcard to the neighborhood. First of all, stop doing that. It absolutely doesn't work. When's the last time you got a call on a just listed postcard? Almost never, right? So it's a bunch of wasted money. The reason is people get the postcard. They're like, why would I even bother calling an agent when I can just go on Zillow or Realtor.com and get the information anyway? Instead, here's what you're going to do. When you have this listing and you know it's coming, you're going to send a letter, not a postcard, to 50 homeowners in the neighborhood. I call it a curiosity letter before the listing's gone live. And you're going to say, hey, I'm taking a listing in your neighborhood over the next week. That's the reason I'm sending you this letter today. I found some very interesting information about your neighborhood that will impact the value of your home. Since I'll be over in the neighborhood several times over the next week getting this home ready for sale, if you're curious about your home value and this information that I've discovered that will impact your home value, please reach out to me immediately to set an appointment. That strategy was given to me by my marketing department. You know where they got this strategy from? They got it because a landscaper had gone to their neighborhood. And he was cutting down one tree in the neighborhood. He sent out a letter to all the neighbors and said, I'll be in the neighborhood cutting down this tree all week. Guess what? He got like 10 other clients that said, yeah, come down, cut this tree, cut this tree. And I thought, we should apply this to real estate. The same exact thing. People are going to be curious about the home that's being listed, like whose house is listed. What's this interesting information? What's my home worth, right? There's so many pieces of data there. So it drives calls. This strategy has been really, really good for the agents that have applied it.
And I love that because one, it separates you from everybody else's postcards that you get. Like I live in a pretty big like new construction community, and like every week it's the same thing, just listed. And what's the natural reaction, right? I literally grab it from the mailbox. There's a recycling bin right next to my mailbox, and there it goes. It doesn't even make it into my house, right? So you differentiate yourself because you're doing something different. And then on top of that, you're actually answering questions that people are interested in knowing the answers to, or you're asking the questions that people are interested in.
Exactly. The other thing, another idea, just a quick strategy too, is an evergreen webinar strategy. I think every agent should be using an evergreen webinar strategy to drive clients. And when I was when we're thinking about what is an evergreen webinar strategy, you find a topic that's going to be really resonating with you. Maybe it's you like to work with investors, whoever your target audience is. Maybe you want to work with first-time home buyers. Maybe you want to go after investment clients. You create a webinar around that topic, hour, half hour, whatever. And I took this idea from Dan Lesniak, billion-dollar agent over the East Coast, who's on my podcast. And Dan does this with buyers, okay? So when he does a buyer webinar, but here's what he does an evergreen one. So he partners with the lender. They do a little 30-minute webinar about buying a home in today's market, how to save money on interest or whatever. 30 minutes, it's recorded, but then he uploads it to a system called Webinar Ninja or Webinar GM. Both of them do the same thing. And this will create a webinar that appears live, but it is actually just recorded and it's being replayed every 30 to 40 minutes, right? And so what happens here is that you can now advertise it and say, join this webinar, it's starting in 10 minutes. Join this webinar, it's starting in 20 minutes. So it's always starting live, right? But the coolest part about this is at the end, he'll say, hey, if you liked what you heard, guys, and you want to work with my team, I'm going to follow up because I got your email because you signed up for this. I'm going to follow up with a couple documents. All you got to do is sign them, and one of my team members will get right back to you tomorrow morning and set up a meeting, and we can start working with you. What do you think happens overnight? What happens overnight is people get these forms, and guess what the forms are? The forms are the buyer representation agreement, which people then sign, right? And he comes in the morning and he's got 3 or 4 signed buyer representation agreements ready to roll. Now, not all these people will be qualified, but now you can qualify them, right? So really easy strategy. Again, put $5 behind it a day and you just start getting some of these leads coming to your inbox. Those are strategies that really every agent should be doing, but no agents are doing.
And why do you feel like agents are not doing that? Is it a lack of awareness? Is it like what do you think are some of the top culprits that agents run into?
The number one challenge for agents is they're afraid of being on camera. That's it. So with a webinar, they got to be on camera. With social media, they got to be on camera. And 94% of agents, I just saw this study, 94% of agents, no matter how much as coaches and trainers, we beat it into their heads, you got to be on camera, you got to do this, 94% will not do it. Just period, dot, end of story, will not do it. So when anybody that's listening to this right now, golden goose number 3 is, if you want to eliminate 94% of your competition in any market in America, all you got to do is start doing video every single day. You start pushing out 1 video a day, you're beating 94% of your competition that will never do it. So now you're only competing not against 94%, now you're only competing against 6%, right? So that's it. I mean, that's the reason, that's the holdback for a lot of agents, for a lot of the technology today, and a lot of technology centers around video.
Well, and that goes along with the theme you talked about at the beginning of just continuing to do. And, for our listeners that have followed us along the way, I'm kind of living proof. Shanne is living proof. Like when you first get on video, it's the most uncomfortable thing ever in the world. And you feel like you're stumbling over things. But like you were saying, Jim, be okay with being uncomfortable, with making mistakes. And we're a year in with our podcast, and Shanne's calling me the sociable engineer all the time, and sometimes I talk him on a podcast. So how things change just by doing.
Yeah, I love it. And now I'm going to give you 2 websites that can help these agents that have fear of it, though. So 2 websites, which is employing AI, right? So Syntasia is a website, syntasia.ai, and HeyGen. I can't spell it.
Sorry, I didn't
I dropped out of college, Shane. I couldn't spell it.
I did too, but I guess I should use that one too. Well, I almost said it. No, never mind.
So Syntasia and HeyGen, both of them are .ai. Both of them do the same thing. So what they'll do is they'll create 1 of 2 things. They'll either allow you to choose an AI avatar, but it looks like a live, real, living, breathing human being, and you feed it a script and it will deliver the script, right? So you could classify this as somebody that's a part of your team, right? So this is my team member, Jennifer. She's an AI person, but she's on your team, right? And she starts delivering your video content that you need to get out because you're afraid to do it. But there's another way to do this with Syntasia specifically, that you can upload yourself delivering video, even though you may suck. You hate it. You don't like to see yourself on camera. You record yourself 3 or 4 times. You load it into Syntasia. Guess what Syntasia will do? It will build an AI version of you, an AI version that will deliver your content perfectly every time with your voice. and it's pretty dang good. So now you're going to have a big problem for a lot of agents is they're afraid they stumble. They're like, I start recording a video and I'm like, I stumble over my words. And this eliminates all that because you feed the text in, the script in, it says it perfectly every single time. It's a one take and done. You imagine your scale. I can put in 3, 4, 5 text scripts, I should say, and push out 3 or 4 videos every single day now, and I'm not having to shoot it. Right? Now, do I think you should do that only? No, I think you should do real video too. But for those of you that are scared of it, this is going to help you. And I would recommend you do it. Even for those of us that are not, just from the scaling standpoint, it's going to help you.
I love that. And I'm kind of just curious, do either of these programs, these AI programs, is it primarily English? Do they do other languages?
They do other languages. Absolutely, they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Great question. Yep.
Okay. Because
they'll also do accents. So if you want an accent, it'll put an accent on there.
I don't know if they do Mandarin, but I freaking love that because in Mandarin there's different dialects and different accents, and I always get made fun of because I have a Beijing accent where I like roll a lot of words.
Right.
But that's been one of my goals is to I can communicate and have like a basic conversation in Mandarin. But if you want me to go more technical, especially in real estate and other areas, like my vocabulary fails. Yeah. So I love like these like AI like tools that you mentioned because I'm going to look into and hopefully they do Mandarin because that would allow my reach personally to expand to a global level, and that's incredibly powerful.
I'm gonna tell you guys about something here. Your audience is gonna get like a leading edge thing here, almost bleeding edge. So I just had a whole interview where I'm interviewing the company. I don't know if you guys have heard about it yet, called Air.ai. So Air.ai, and this is cutting edge, is conversational AI. So this is going to change sales. Over the next 5 years, sales will be completely transformed because of conversational AI. And what conversational AI will do is it will allow you to feed in an unlimited number of phone numbers. Okay. Let's say that you have identified in your market area, there's 1,000 people that I think are most likely to sell. And that's a whole nother thing. Likely.ai, you can feed it in your whole neighborhoods, and it will tell you based on these people that you fed in, these are the 50 most likely people to sell. That's a whole nother conversation. But what Air AI will do is it'll call all 1,000 of them simultaneously and have a conversation with them, AI conversation that you've written the script for, that sounds so human-like, it's very difficult to tell that it's not a human. Like you would almost not know it's not a human. It will respond, it'll interact. It's not just a recording, it's interacting with the person in real time. And then it will try to set an appointment for you and then put that appointment right on your calendar. So imagine that you can now scale with any with no limits. You could literally be feeding it every for sale by owner, every expired listing, and have it just calling them. Yes, you got to adhere to the do not call laws and everything else. But this technology is game changing. So Air.ai, for any of you guys that are listening, pretty cool tech out there. That's really neat.
As the inner engineer and the geek, I'm loving this conversation. And Jim, we've kind of focused the conversation so far on just kind of individual agents, how to support individual agents. Let's shift the conversation a little bit because you also have been super successful in building out just large teams, and building up, very successful agents across your teams. Can you get into that a little bit? Like, how do you continue to build, grow, incentivize the people on your team to have reached the scale that you've reached today?
Well, I specialize my specialization and my niche in the marketplace is brokerage coaching. So unlike most people who focus on agent coaching, I still do agent coaching and I love it, but my real focus is brokerage coaching and helping team leaders and brokerage owners grow through recruiting experienced agents. That's what I specialize in. So the number one way you're going to attract an experienced agent to join your team or join your brokerage is what I call and what is called per agent productivity. So I can say to you, Michael, hey, listen, I'd love to show you what we're doing over at my team. And the reason I'd love to show it to you is because on average, my team is closing 12 transactions a year. And I've ranked every team in the market area, and I think we're one of the number one teams in the market. I'd love to share with you why we're doing that, how we're helping our team members take more money home to their family. That's the number one driver. It's not commissions. People get all caught up in commissions. You can't recruit to commission plans, and I'll tell you why. Because as soon as you say, I have a $5 cap, guess what? Your competitor is going to come in and say, what? Guess what? I got a $4 cap. Oh, guess what? I got a $3 cap. Guess what? I got a $2 cap, right? And pretty soon we're paying agents to work for us. You got to let go of this whole idea that it's all about your commission. It's all about your caps. That's ridiculous. It's not that. What drives agents to come to work for teams and companies is how many closings they can create, because 100% of nothing is still nothing, right? And 50% of the agents in America can identify with this. They would much rather be working for a company where they close in 10 transactions at 50% than those 0 to 1 they closed last year and they got 100%, right? So that's the number one goal. As a brokerage owner or team leader, we got to be saying, how can I get my agents to produce more? I got to give them the resources, the tools, the technology, the coaching, the mentorship to help them to do that.
Would you weight all those equally, those areas that an effective like brokerage needs to provide to their agents? Are there certain ones that are more important than others as you're trying to continue to build out your team?
Well, number one, it's I would say broker and mentorship coaching one-on-one with agents is the most important, because everybody talks a good game, but the idea that you're going to sit with me and help me individually as an agent grow is the single most important thing I can do to help my office leader, help my team grow. Technology is important, but here's the problem with technology. Technology in general, with most offices across the board, has a very low adoption rate. So I can say, I'm going to give everybody the best CRM. I'm going to give them the best follow-up system, the best website, the best app. You name it, I'm delivering it. AI tools, everything else. But the reality of adoption in most real estate offices and teams is about 20%, meaning 80% of the people are not using the technology and 20% of the people are. So you're paying all this money. So anybody that's providing a technology for their offices, here's what I recommend you do. You train the technology every single week. Not a week will go by that I don't train to the technology I'm providing. And what that looks like, we call it Tech Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, we do a technology training for 30 minutes to an hour, whoever wants to show up. And we're going to be talking about our CRM, but this aspect of our CRM. We're going to be talking about our CMA system, but this aspect of our CMA system. We're going to be
diving into certain places, right?
Dives, yep. Click by click by click by click to train them. That's the only way they're going to use it. They will not learn it any other way. You've got to go deep.
And that's interesting, the one-on-one time, because I would agree, like you build that relationship over time, you build that trust with your individual team members. But in my head, I mean, the follow-up question to that for you then is, how does that effectively scale over time as your company continues to grow?
It's a great question. So it's easy when you have 30 agents. It's harder when you have 500 agents.
Right. Exactly.
So how do you do this? So here's the way I encourage my brokerage owners and team leaders to live by what I call going big and going small every day. So going big means I touch my entire agent body some way, somehow every day. So that might mean I'm going to do a social media post on my closed Facebook. Might mean I send out a voicemail drop to the entire team. It might mean I'm doing an office meeting that everybody can attend virtually. It might mean I'm doing a webinar, but I'm giving everybody this opportunity to be touched by me in a large way. So that's number one. The second thing is then I'm going to do individual, what I call going small. So I go big every day and I go small. Going small means I'm going to handpick 5, 10 agents, let's call it 10 if I'm running a bigger company, that I'm going to individually touch today. Your number one job as a brokerage owner team leader is recruiting and secondly, retention. Every single other thing should be offloaded. Your job as you're growing your company as soon as humanly possible is to stop brokering deals. You being a deal doctor is ridiculous. That is a $20 an hour job at best, right? That is not the highest and best use of your time. Highest and best use is coaching and mentoring your own agents. So when I'm doing that one-on-one, that's where I'm going to have those one-on-one phone calls, lunches, handwriting notes, personal texts, personal emails. So I'm engaging people at a personal level. So if I'm doing 10 of those a day, over a month, that's 300 touches, and that's a lot, right? I can easily maintain high level relationships with a 300 person company doing that, right? Far better than 99% of the companies in America.
I love that advice. That is awesome. Shane, sorry, it's not often that I monopolize the conversation.
Oh, no, it's fine. I actually, no. And the thing is too, is that there's staff around just because, I wasn't able to completely isolate, but, no, I actually, what you're doing, Jim, like I really struggle with the efficiency with being able to, like, if you ask what, where I could be helped after 25 years in the business, is there's no lack of knowing the business and being a top producer. Is just that, top producers a lot of times have a hard time mentoring and sharing their knowledge and be able to touch everybody. We also struggle with, we're so advanced and so up here that then some of the mentees get frustrated, like, hey, you're always telling me, and I know you know your stuff, but then you're not making it applicable for me. Like, how do I even start so I could go there? And it's amazing to me that, first of all, that you're actually able to have the bandwidth to do as much as you do on a daily basis. But then secondly, I guess it would be interesting to see, how do you reel back that big brain, that big real estate brain, and actually get, because like, for instance, when I asked you some of the steps to get business, like that was very tactical and that was very simple, right? And so in fact, after this podcast, I want you to share that with me, please, because I mean, that'll totally help me a lot. But I'm just curious, how do you actually, when you're talking to these agents, especially the newer ones, the ones that don't produce a lot, how do you actually break it down so that they can actually be successful with it versus being like, dude, you know everything, we know nothing, and you're not helping us?
I'm going to give you the best tip I can give you on this. And that is, here's what happens with brokerage owners and leaders is that we end up repeating ourselves 1,000,000 times, right? So you get the same question 10 times a day and you're like, holy crap, I just said it like 3 minutes ago, this whole conversation, right? So you got to say to yourself, I've got to find a way that I don't have to repeat myself all the time. That's kind. That doesn't come across like I'm just putting people off. So the best way to do this is with yourself is just start with one, but create a playbook and create 5. Just set a goal of creating like one playbook, then try to get to 5 as fast as possible. So, and the way you do this from your personal experience, you say, hey, for me, when I was growing my business in the beginning, my number one strategy, my go-to strategy that I ran all the time was this. And I broke it down for you in a 4-page document that's literally like 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't have to be fancy. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe it's a Trello board you're putting out, but it's something that people can really easily see. And then you push that out. Now, when somebody comes and says, how do I do an open house effectively? You don't have to go like, let me tell you the 10 steps. Instead, you're like, oh, I'm glad you asked. I built something for you that's really going to help you. In fact, really focus on number 3 because that was the big game changer for me. And now, so you're creating something that is can be repeated, right? So it creates a lot more efficiency for you. Now, you could turn them to an outside source and say, well, go do this, right? Go follow some coach that's doing that already. But it's better if you have it yourself or you've taken somebody else's and modified it to yourself. So that's number 1. Number 2, let me give you the number 1 question you should ask your team members. As you're walking around talking to people just every day, the number 1 question, because it's easy to fall into bad traps and just bad habits. So if I'm walking around and I come across Michael and he's sitting at the coffee or whatever doing something, I say, hi, Michael, how's it going, man? And we have a little conversation. Most of the time, most brokers would leave it there and they'd be like, okay, I had a connection. And that was it. I did my job today. Wrong. You haven't done your job today. What I need to do is say, how's your pipeline, Michael? This is your number 1 question I'm going to ask everybody. How's your pipeline going, man? And now we're going to drive to, suddenly he's going to get super serious. He's going to be like,
oh, we're digging in. All right, let's do it.
Oh, well, it's not so great. I got 1 listing and I got 1 escrow and it's kind of iffy. So you're basically unemployed. I wouldn't say that to you, honestly, but I would say, okay, so it sounds like you need a little bit of some coaching. We need to get you out of this hole you're in, huh? Great. Come to my office. Let's spend 10 minutes together. Let's talk about some things you can do to go out there and crush it. Now, you want to talk about retention? He will never leave me, ever, because I'm taking a personal interest in his performance. And if he goes out and starts doing the things I do and creates success, he's going to be my best recruiter because he's going to say, Jim, turn me into a $2 million, from a $2 million into a $6 million producer over the last year or two, right? So, I mean, I think that is really big. And then let me give you one more tip on this, guys. So I help Michael. I give him a 10-minute coaching, not too long. Here's do these 2 playbooks over the next 2 weeks. You tell me how it goes. I'm going to go into my CRM right then. I'm going to record on here, talk to Michael about his performance, gave him 2 playbooks, follow up in a week. Now I follow up. It just has to be a quick text. Michael, how's it going with playbook number 1? How's it going with that? You're going to be like, oh, yeah, great. It's going. Thank you so much. At the very least, they're going to be like, he's watching. There's something called the Hawthorne effect. And this has been a studied phenomenon. GE studied it back in the 50s. The Hawthorne effect is people's performance will rise if they think they're being watched. So if they think they're not being watched, their performance, they'll just sink the level of mediocrity that surrounds them. But if they think you're watching them, their performance will rise pretty quickly. So you got to make everybody in your office think, oh, Jim's watching. He's paying attention. It's not like he's not engaged. He's watching what the heck I'm doing. And if you watch your production, your team members, it will go through the roof really quick. So that was a long answer, Shane, but there you go.
No, but that's really good. Well, look, I mean, not all top producers are fit to be mentors or to be able to really help new agents come along. I think one of the frustrations for me is that you give them like the juice, right? And then they never do anything with it, right? Because you can lead them to water, you can't make them drink. I think for me, I see people like yourself that have had a lot of success with that. And, I guess for me, it's just a little frustrating because I haven't seen a high percentage of success with people that I share everything with. And I mean, for me, number one is my sphere. Like over 90% of my business is repeat and referral. And it's like, I preach this day and night, and it seems like the agents I talk to don't have any spheres. I'm like, well, let's create one. I give them ideas how to create one. But then the other big breakdown is consistency, right? Like they might get excited for 2 or 3 days and then, hey, look, I'm doing this, right? But it's like, I mean, do you feel like with the way you're doing it, do you feel like you're building enough drive that they're consistent, or is there something else that you're feeding them to make them want to be consistent?
Well, let me give you one other technique. Yeah, I agree with you. Most agents are in that category that they're not very self-directed, right? They have more of an employee mentality. They're just not entrepreneurial in most cases. So the best thing you can do in your office, if you have, like you quartile your office or your team and you say, okay, I'm going to look at everybody by quartiles, A, B, C, and D by production. I look at my D performers, probably people that have closed 0 transactions, right? Or maybe 1 last 6 months or a year. Those are people that are, what I would say, that are on the bubble that maybe should be fired, right? Because here's what's happening. If you allow those zeros to stay on your roster, what's happening is your per agent productivity, when I average it out, is being dragged down quite a bit. If you cut the list, now I'm not saying you fire them all, but let me give you an idea here. I call it the de-hiring process. So the de-hiring process is, I say, Shane, I need to talk to you today. So you come into my office and we need to have a personal meeting. And then you'd be like, oh shoot, what's going on with Jim? He's calling me into his office. So Shane, I just went through our production for the last 6 months. I saw you haven't closed any deals, man. So I know, obviously that's not working for you. Obviously as your team leader, it's not working for me. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I have something called the daily dashboard. This is what I have for my own team, the daily dashboard of high performance. It's exactly what you're going to need to do in order to perform. And it's going to record what you do. It's a 1-page sheet. On the top, it says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it records how many hours you're lead generating. Minimum for us is 1 hour lead generation a day. You probably should be doing 2 or 3, but I'm going to accept 1. So 1/8 of your day in lead gen. Then beneath that, it's going to record everything you're doing in lead gen. Notes, calls, pop-bys, social media posts, thank you cards, everything you could be doing. You're just going to record exactly what you're doing. And then at the bottom, it has four big boxes for results. How many appointments set, how many new escrows, how many new closings, how many people you added to your sphere of influence. I'm going to need you. If you want to stay with me, I'm going to need you to send that to me every Friday going forward. For the next 4 weeks, we got to reset you, man. You can't continue like this. Do you want to continue like this? You're going to say, no, man, I don't want to. So we got to have a change in performance. And the only way you're going to change your performance is by changing your actions. So you do that for me. Now you're going to say yes. In the meeting, you're going to say yes. And now every Friday, I'm going to make a note in my CRM. Did Shane turn in his sheet today? If you didn't turn in your sheet, I'm going to text you and say, Shane, where's my sheet? Remember, I needed it for the next 4 weeks. What will happen is you'll fire yourself. If you're not going to do the work, you'll be like, hey, Jim, I'm going to go somewhere else. Totally understand, buddy. I wish you the absolute best. But get off my roster. If you're not going to do the work, I don't need a body on my roster. It doesn't do me any good. You got to commit. And what will happen is the first time you do that, that word of that will spread like wildfire through your team. And people will be like, holy crap, he's watching and he's going to fire me if I don't start performing. So it's not like I want to operate in fear, but I do want them operating from a perspective of, we have a job to do, and that's selling real estate. This isn't a social club.
Right. But it's easy to be in. Yeah. Well, so what I used to do is I used to have them track their activity. Oh yeah, well, I'm working. I'm doing what I'm supposed to. Okay, well, this is what you want to do for the next week. Track all your activity throughout the day. Here's a notebook. Track your activity. Right. I think I've gotten one notebook back in my entire career. Right. And right. So, yeah. But then this is the bit that I get too. Like I'll get this feedback, and in fact, I got this feedback earlier today. Well, yeah, but you've been doing this for a long time, so it's easier for you, because people are just coming to you and everything else. I'm like, well, understand that that's happening now, but I did those steps when I was you. Right. So if you don't do those steps now, then you'll never be here. But if you do those steps, then someday you might be telling the newbie, like, look, this is what I did. Kind of what you were saying earlier, how you kind of give them I like that idea you had about maybe Trello board. Trello board is actually a great idea. That would be something very easy for them to absorb, but I like that idea. And I, Michael, is that not a great idea? Is that not finding a way? Because remember we talked about how can I put out what I've done, right, to agents? Don't you feel like that might even be a great theory?
Well, I mean, I think across the board, there are a lot of things. It's like, Jim, you're giving very structured, direct, easy to follow, whether it's a framework, but live examples that agents can use. It's tangible. It's something they can see and they can track easily, right? And I think that makes the visual interactive aspect of that, I think, leaves a strong impression, I think, for whoever you're working with on your team. And I think that's also important as well. Like giving them some sort of structure to follow. And if you really can't follow the structure, then I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
And I also think it's you get what you expect. And so you have to have an expectation of performance. And this starts with the first meeting and the first time you're hiring somebody. And you say, hey, we have an expectation of performance here. We're all shooting for a minimum of X transactions a month, X transactions a year. And I'm here to support you and help you to do that. But we're not just having people who sit here and not close any transactions either. So there's an expectation of performance, and you got to, that expectation's got to be set up from day
and constantly communicating that expectation as well, right? You communicate it at the beginning. If they're not doing, like your point, you set a reminder to follow up. So it's that constant reminder of, okay, like Jim's, freaking serious about what he was saying to me day one and what he told me last week, and he's watching. To your point.
Yeah, and then I think also having team goals. So every team and brokerage leader should have office meetings every week or every month, at some regular standpoint. But during those meetings, one thing I think is super important is to set goals for the entire team and say, guys, for the month of August or July, let's go say July. For the month of July, I want us to do 20 deals this month, or I want us to do 10 deals this month. And what that breaks down to is one deal for every team member here. Can everybody commit to that? Let's get that done, right? And then you're watching it. If you guys start to get close, like we're at 7, we're going to hit it, guys. We got 3 more. Let's get it done. And you are coaching to this through texts and positive affirmations and rah-rahing them. People get excited, and then if you hit the 10, you reward them. Let's go have a social night. I'm going to buy everybody a beer tonight. Let's go have some fun, right? And you get people excited about this idea that you're winning individually, but you're also winning as a team, and people love that. They get fired up about that. And
there's a gamification aspect to that too, which is always fun, especially for younger agents, right? With and all the games that they've grown up playing. So Jim, kind of in the spirit of time, because I mean, this has just been a tactical and action-packed episode with you. Just out of curiosity, like Jim Remley, you yourself, like, what are you looking forward to the most this year? What's your vision for yourself going forward?
Well, my focus now is working with brokerage owners and team leaders across the country. So we're currently coaching about 40 different team leaders and brokerages. I'd love to grow that to 100 over the next 12 months. And so that's kind of my mission and my passion, what I'm working on now.
Shanne, you want to do the honors with our special question?
Well, Jim, I mean, you're going to probably have the best response we've ever had in history for this, but because we also have people on the show that are not in real estate. And so this question is always something just where they can take their skills and apply. But, if you were going to start brand new, and we kind of touched on this earlier, so some of it might be redundant, but if you're a brand new agent today and you were going to start your business, like what are the main, just simple, but just like, what are the main things you would focus on? Like, how would you build a business from the ground up as an agent in today's market?
One of the things I would do that I didn't do early is to focus, and this is hopefully something a lot of your agents can apply immediately, is to focus around relocation. And I'll tell you why. Because relocation makes up 40% of the business in every market, by and large, across the country. So, but most people aren't tactically focusing in their business around this. And when I say the word relocation, I mean literally the word relocation. So if you go into your market and you Google relocation and you say, for me, it'd be Medford, Oregon relocation. You get very few agents, if any, will come up. There's a million realtors that'll come up when you type in the word realtor or real estate agent. But you type in the word relocation, very, very few will come up. So I would have that on my business card, on my website. I'd have a tab on my website. And then I'd go further and I would build out a YouTube channel and a TikTok channel around the lifestyle someone would enjoy if they moved to my market area. And this is going to focus on relocation. So like me and my wife travel a lot. When we travel, the first thing we do is we go to YouTube and we say, my wife just got back from Nashville. What's to do in Nashville? And of course, you're going to get all this standard tourism stuff. But I just did this and guess how many agents I got? 0, right? If I was a smart agent, I would be tactically going around all the fun things there are to do in Nashville, right? All the fun things there are to do in Medford. And I focus around the hyper-local aspect of what it's like living in my neighborhood and get connected. That's what I would do. That's step one. I'd focus around relocation. I have 100 tactics around that, but relocation would be a big tactic for me. And let me tell you one key implementable strategy for everybody on relocation real quickly is to farm the feeder markets around your city. So like you guys are in San Jose, Santa Cruz area. So, a feeder market for you might be LA, right? So a feeder market for you might be, Sacramento, somewhere around them. So I might go and I might start farming, not the people that live in those areas, but I'd farm the realtors in those areas. And I don't have to farm them all. I only have to farm the top 10%. And I farm them by saying, hey, I'm Jim Remley. I'm from ABC Real Estate. I'd love to be a referral agent of choice in the Santa Cruz market. You probably get a few of these a year. Love to talk to you. I'll pay, again, an oddball number, 33 1/3% referral fee. Give you updates, kind of the same strategy we did with the exiting agent, but we apply it to farming other agents in those communities. I would do that as a brand new agent, especially a young agent, because they don't know how old I am. So if I was 19 again, those would be two things I would do I would do immediately. So I could go on and on, but there's 2 ideas, right?
No, that's
amazing stuff.
This has been awesome. And Jim, like if our audience wants to, follow you, learn more about you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can follow me on social anywhere by looking for E as an elephant real estate coach. And then if you go to my website, erealestatecoach.com, you can learn all about our agent coaching. First month of coaching is only $1, so you can check that out. And then we have all of our information about our brokerage coaching over there. We also got a free webinar right now on there that is all about recruiting. So it's a 2-hour recruiting webinar, give you all the best ideas and tactics and strategies around high-level recruiting, experienced agents, 2 hours for free. It's called Rockstar Recruiting.
Awesome. Well, Jim, this has been a pleasure. Appreciate having you on. I love the fact that now we're going to have, a golden goose graphic on our podcast for any kind of tactical advice that we give agents. So appreciate your time and thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, man. It was awesome, Jim. Thanks so much. Learned so much.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Top Producing Zone podcast.
See you soon.